the Mugabe government 2 weeks ago. I doubt that you read any of these reports in the New York Times or the Washington Post. They really don't like to report such news. Much of the recent turmoil in Zimbabwe is related to Mugabe's threats during the past year to take their farms away from white farmers and give them to his black followers. Last week, on April 6th, he finally announced that he will confiscate white farms without compensation. Even before the announcement, black gangs already had invaded more than 800 white farms and become illegal squatters, and Mugabe had refused to intervene. There are only 75,000 whites left in Zimbabwe today. Of the 275,000 Rhodesians in the country in 1979 at the advent of black rule, 200,000 already have left. The ones who remain own some 4,500 farms, which still produce more than 90% of Zimbabwe's agricultural output. Mugabe is basing his popularity with blacks on a promise to take the farms away from whites and redistribute the land to blacks. Referring to his refusal to remove the illegal squatters from the white farms, Mugabe announced last week, and I quote, "We will not remove the people from the farms. We are going to share the farms. We are all equal. We all have to share equally." The remaining whites in Zimbabwe are desperate. Their farms are all they have. When those are taken, most of them will have nothing left and nowhere to go. A minority of them with British passports can go to Britain, but everything they own, everything they spent their lives building, will remain behind. Now, here's the punchline to this story. It isn't a story in America. The Jewish mass media over here have been far too busy giving us the latest updates on Elian Gonzalez to tell us about what's happening in Zimbabwe. 4 days ago, on Tuesday night of this week, I saw a 1-minute snippet about the dispossession of the white farmers of Zimbabwe on CNN headline news. I don't expect to see much more. So far as the Jewish media bosses are concerned, it's not important news. The victims are our people, not Jews or blacks or other non-whites, and so there's no need to make a fuss about it. And the liberals, of course, aren't interested. They were very interested back in the 1970s when they were busy destroying Rhodesia. But now that the work of destruction is done, they have completely lost interest. They don't care. Their latest project is to persuade the International Monetary Fund that it must not be so stingy in giving our money to African countries which need it. They're demonstrating in the streets of Washington right now in a campaign to get more money for supporting bankrupt countries, countries like Robert Mugabe's Zimbabwe. Since the whites, who were the principal employers of black workers in Zimbabwe, began leaving a few years ago, the unemployment rate in Zimbabwe has reached 50%. Now the annual inflation rate also has reached 50%. When Mugabe begins grabbing more white farms, as he announced last week that he would, there will be a total collapse of the economy. On top of that, 1 in every 5 blacks in Zimbabwe is infected with HIV. Yes, indeed, a new generation of very earnest college girls and long-haired freaks and hymn-singing Christians soon will have a wonderful new cause to devote themselves to, providing money and food and medical aid to the starving, AIDS-wasted blacks of Zimbabwe. They will be demonstrating just as self-righteously for this cause as the previous generation demonstrated for black rule in Rhodesia. You know, I started out today to talk about the disease of liberalism. What I've talked about so far is just one of the consequences of liberalism, one of the effects of this disease of the soul. The very earnest college girls and the long-haired freaks and the hymn-singing Christians who were so proud of themselves when they succeeded in destroying Rhodesia are just an effect of liberalism also. They aren't liberals. They don't have an ideology. They just want to be fashionable. They will take up any cause with the utmost earnestness so long as it is fashionable. They don't have the wits to understand the disastrous consequences of their misdirected earnestness, and they really don't care. I used to want to kill all of these people. I wanted to round up every earnest college girl and every long-haired freak and every hand-clapping hymn singer who had demonstrated for black rule in Rhodesia, or for a boycott of South Africa, or for black voting rights in the South, or what have you. Make them dig an enormous burial pit and then machine gun all of them. I wanted to obtain all of the old membership lists of the organizations to which these people had belonged so that they can all be rounded up and done away with. They have done so much damage in this world and then walked away from it without the least regard for what they've done, without the least understanding of the harm they've caused, that it seemed to me that the proper thing to do was just kill them all. Well, I understand now that that's not really necessary. There are just too many trendy idiots in the world. They are not even inherently evil. They lack the ability to distinguish good from evil. They have no more inherent morality than animals do. They have no souls. They have only the ability to recognize what is trendy at the moment. The people who need to be killed are the ones who set a destructive trends for the idiots. They are the real liberals, the ones who are really sick and need to be put down. I'll talk more about them later. But for now, I must tell you, I am really heartbroken when I contemplate what the destructive idiots they manipulate have done to the white people of Rhodesia, who were among the finest of our people, and who at this moment are facing a very grim future indeed. Thanks for being with me again today.
Wow. Yeah, you had a lot to say, a lot of it factual, very insightful. You know, I don't know where you are from. Are you Rhodesian? You know, but yeah. Well, I don't know. Look where we are at now. We are in a situation now where most of my generation are much more comfortable speaking English than we are speaking Shona. You know, that's cultural influence, that's education, you know. Now, you guys were a little bit too harsh on us when you came around. You know what I'm saying? You're a little bit too harsh on us when you came around. You can say whatever you want to say about us, you know, but you have to realize we were trading with the Portuguese, we were trading with China before you guys even came in the picture. You know, we were a wealthy people. We had garments because we traded fabrics with the Portuguese and the Chinese. We had gold and bracelets for our chiefs, kings, and women. And even for the gentry, you know. We had spear-tipped spears, iron spears. We worked silver. We purified silver. So we had our ways. And we fought you guys off for a very long time, and you guys came because you were suffering where you were. You see, if I left Zimbabwe right now to come to Europe, it's because I'm suffering in Zimbabwe. That's what caused me to leave Zimbabwe for the first time. That's what has caused Zimbabweans to leave Zimbabwe, or for most Africans to leave Africa. It's suffering and war. And Africans have never really had to leave Africa prior to encountering you guys, Europeans. So you're always going to see it from your point of view. I am educated enough to see it also from your point of view. You know. And that's the thing, you guys never really treated us as equals because of the language barrier. And you took advantage of that. You know, when you look at what is being civilized, what being civilized is respecting not only your own property or your own life, but also respecting other people's lives. You know, there's nothing good that you write about us. There's really nothing good that you write about us as Africans. And you really like to point out the worst in us. You really like to point out the worst in us. You see, you came to our lands, and there's been a fight since you people came to our lands, and this war hasn't stopped. It's, you know, paused here and there, changed form, but the war still continues. The war still is continuing. There is still a war. Now, we don't even really know where white people come from. Ultimately, we don't. You know? We really don't know. But wherever your kind goes, you enforce your culture. You see, you enforce your culture because you say yours is the superior culture. You see. Now there's already a flaw in that thinking, if you ask me. There's already a flaw in that thinking. We value different things because of our environment. You people come from a harsh, cold, and unyielding environment. As opposed to us, the dark peoples, we come from a sunny, vibrant, hot, yielding, wonderful nature, you know, and abundance of everything. We lack nothing as Africans. Hence, we really never ventured out of Africa. You know, we did. Don't get me wrong, because if you look even into the Americas the Olmecs, even in Mexico, this history that the Smithsonian Institute, along with the Rhodes Institute, try to cover up, and portray a totally opposite perception or perspective towards Africans. Yet, when you look at history, for what it is worth, what you even attest to, and what you will not even deny, is to say everything European. Hence, you've got the word Eurocentric or whitewashing, Renaissance period, taking of what is essentially African and taking credit for it, or giving it to the Arabs, giving credit for it, never giving it credit to the Africans. Everything primitive, yes, give it back to the Africans, but anything that has got a semblance of modernity, it belongs to you. You've just taken our ceremonies, like the simple marriage ceremony, an African marriage ceremony, and you pimped it up. You just made it pompous. You just made it more pompous, you see. But the principles are still just the same. The thing is, now I I can read. Now I'm literate again, you see. Because these things have been taken away from us. Even though these things belong to us, you're bringing nothing new. If it was new, it would be strange, you see. But it is not strange at all. At all. There's nothing strange about this. And there is nothing I cannot conceptualize, There's nothing I cannot conceptualize. To the point where I can even debate your greatest philosophers, and call them out for what they are, liars. People like Copernicus. Because, let's talk about it. Heliocentric model or geocentric model? What do you adhere to? There should still be a debate on that. And there isn't really a debate on that. You people are the greatest liars. Did you even go to the moon? You get what I'm trying to say? You ask the people in Hiroshima, were they nuclear bombed or was it dynamite? You get me? A lot of things there. Look, we are awoken now, okay? We've woken up. We've woken up. Mugabe doesn't have a lot of time left. He doesn't have a lot of time. He's 92 years old. But we do not want to go under another dictatorship again as Zimbabweans. We don't want to go under another dictatorship. You were talking about 1963, Rhodesia, UDI. Well, my understanding is actually it was in 1923 that, they were given their sovereignty by Great Britain at the time. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, look, whenever you have this situation of the minority trying to control the majority, it's going to upset the system, okay? So rather than just trashing liberalism and throwing out the baby with the bathwater, can we not take aspects of it that are good? Because thing is, I actually agree with a lot of what you're saying, you see. Because there's logic in it. You know, there's logic in it. So it's not about how you feel, it's about results at the end of the day. What kind of results are you getting at the end of the day? Yes. But then, you cannot negate that. We're not fucking animals. You get me? We're not animals. We do not desire a whip at the end of the day, once in a while. Unless you also are going to require a whip too. You get me? Because if you smack me, I'll smack you. I'm not the Jesus type. You get me? Where you turn the other cheek. Me, if you touch me, I'll touch you up too. That's how it goes. You get me? That's why we have this thing called language. We teach each other how to speak and we communicate. Okay. And then we share ideas. Don't think that your ideas are too magnificent for me to fathom. That's just being too egotistical. It's bullshit. And that's how most of your people are. You get me? As if we cannot fathom, as if we cannot conceptualize, as if we cannot hold ideas in our own minds. Perhaps, yes, we are even a different species. Who knows? It's possible. Very, very possible. We are a different species. Okay. So if the truth be told, yes, let's bear it out. Your kind is affected by the sun. Okay. Your kind is affected by the sun. Your kind could benefit from borrowing a little bit, okay, of our brownness. Don't strive to be so white, okay? The idea is fine. Race is nothing, okay, without, you can have your ideas, but if you don't have the excellent health, look, AIDS is a phase. We'll recover from this. You get what I'm trying to say? We'll recover from this. I won't be surprised if the next generations coming up will be AIDS resistant. Do you get me? Because that's just how nature works, and it's on our side. Deal with it. We're in sync, a harmony with nature, okay? A balance, okay? A balance. There are so many animals in Africa, okay? So many animals in Africa. But you find that as Rhodesians, prior to that, as the Bantu people, even prior to that. Because you see, even all these names, these are names you just give us. There's a lot of confusion right now. A lot of confusion right now. But this is the thing. The Zimbabwean issue is the world issue, is the African issue. Because what we state in Zimbabwe right now is the standard. It's the standard for the rest of Africa to follow. We don't want war again. Okay? We do not want conflict again. Okay? Let's have a discussion, let's have a debate. Mugabe has been stopping us from talking. Let's talk. Let's talk about these things. As Zimbabweans and Rhodesians. Okay? Let's talk about this. Because this is our country. There's a very few Rhodesians left, actually. And that's the Mugabe's era. There's more Zimbabweans now. So that's the thing. We would like to know more of our history. So yeah, give us this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because Mugabe was denying us all this kind of stuff. We want to know the good and the bad of it. It's our history. You get me? As long as it is truthful and honest. Excuse me. Give it to us. It's our history. I won't deny that. Yes, I enjoyed the we can just say it's the residue of Rhodesia. Because I'm a born free, 1981. So I enjoyed the residue of Rhodesia because for 36 years things have been on a decline. And all the aforementioned things you've mentioned, things you've said, yes, I can attest to those things as being true. And now the same system that Ian Smith had is being used to brutalize the citizens of Zimbabwe, who actually are not partisan to, or, because if you look at the history, you can actually find out that even during the first election or the first campaign, there was a lot of coercion that took place. You get me? So things have never been fair since day one. You get me? So you've got documentaries there. You can go and watch, the country that never had a free election, Zimbabwe. It's very insightful. Shows you a lot. So don't condemn the rest of us just because of what Mugabe is doing. Do you get me? You partly are to blame for giving us a substandard education and allowing it to be so. My understanding is there was never a truth telling after the war. Is to say, let things be outed as it was done in South Africa and in many other countries. They decided to keep things secret. And then you ended up having Kura Hundi out of those secrets. And more massacres throughout the elections. People died. Leaving us with this status quo, a dysfunctional country where people are dying constantly. People are dying constantly, needlessly, after all. And ministers and government officials, they don't stick around in Zimbabwe. They don't stick around at all. They're usually abroad, they're usually in South Africa. Most of them. That's where they be. Because Zimbabwe is not a place to be. It's fucked up. Everything is too expensive. You get me? So they'd rather be in South Africa. But the people is suffering. It's the people who is suffering right now. And especially in the villages, in the rural communities, that's where it's really hitting the hardest. You get me? Because they are really under the thumb of Mugabe. You've pointed out a lot, but you really haven't brought up a solution besides just blaming it all on liberalism. Well, we learn from our past. Here we have got an opportunity to forge something new, an ideal, an ideal, where we don't concentrate on race, but we concentrate on quality. Let's call gold for what it is. Gold is gold. Let's call platinum for what it is. Platinum is platinum. And Zimbabwe is a value life. And that's the difference between us and the rest of the world. We really do value life. And the people who have been killed by Mugabe, the people who have been disappeared by Mugabe, these people really hurt us. Black or white. They really do. Because I grew up with white friends. I'm married to a white woman. My kids are, she's blight. She's a blight. Yeah. Black, white. Yeah. She's blight. So, if I don't get along with my missus, it's not because I'm black, but it's because it's ideology, character, personality, things like that, not because I'm black, per se. Now, yes, the lack of education, the lack of access to education, you get me? Because with you guys, you end up taking the piss, and it's indoctrination. World War One, World War Two, my ass. Okay, these are tribal wars. Do you get me? Because England is a country. These are English. It's a fucking tribe. Okay, the Germans also. It's a fucking tribe. So you don't go around calling it World War when these are fucking tribes. Do you get me? At war. You know what I mean? Don't involve us in that bullshit. I don't like that. You people have a tendency to do that, and you speak your fucking minds because you think you run the world, innit? But you do not have monopoly on ideas. That's the whole point. Fine. Yeah, we were asleep for a while. You get me? But because that's the thing, we never wanted for anything. You get me? Until you people came along and now we want our freedom. And that's the thing. we're fighting for freedom. Do you get me? We're fighting for freedom. We were never poor. Do you get me? We were never poor. You go and look at these videos you people make when you people were culling in Africa. I don't know why they just go out and call it killing. You're calling it culling, okay? When you massacred millions of wildebeest, elephants, lions, of wildlife in Africa, okay? You people with guns and helicopters and nets, there is that footage, and we should start pumping it out on YouTube. Do you get me? So you guys can see how destructive you are. And now you talk about nature reserves and whatnot. You get me? Look at what you guys did when you went to America. You had the wildebeest. You destroyed everything. You get me? And you think living in square buildings is civilized. My God. We just have a different opinion. Let's have a discussion. Okay. Let's not go overboard. Let's take some, the word is there and I'm looking for it. It's there and I'm looking for it. I'll find it. So, you are blunt and pretty harsh, and I think you've got an audience that adheres to that. Yeah, kudos, mate. Kudos. When it comes to Zimbabwe, I don't know. This is a new breed here, because we've been exposed, to your ways. Some of us have been exposed to our ways, too. We need that honesty in Zimbabwe. We need that truth in Zimbabwe. And this is not hatred coming from you. That's free speech. In Zimbabwe, we should commemorate things like this. Things like this should belong in archives and libraries for all of us Zimbabweans to access and debate on. You see, let's engage the mind. Yes, let's engage the mind. So when we do physical activities, we are of one mind. Okay. I hate to be subdued, and I hate being lied to. Theories are theories, okay? Theories are theories. I hate living by them because it's theoretical life. I prefer reality, if you get my meaning.